Do I say Dr. Kate Mason?
if you like. But
Hello everyone, welcome to theCUBE here at the New York Stock Exchange. I'm John Furrier, your host of theCUBE. This is our East Coast studio at the NYSE, the NYSE Wired program. You've been following, of course, we got our Palo Alto studio and we cover the tech events. Got a great guest here, an author of a book, Powerfully Likable. Dr. Kate Mason's here, career in tech, now author. Very compelling book, thanks for coming on.
thanks for having me, John.
So we've been looking at the tech trends, and as you know, Women in Tech has been one of our most popular series, interviewing women who are doing great things in tech. The numbers still are skewed, and it's almost been 15 years. We've been kind of documented. Has there been progress, and is that a tech thing? And then you're seeing a lot more surge with AI to be democratized. So has the game changed at all, in your opinion?
The game is changing all the time. I think the progress we've made has been phenomenal, but one of the reasons that I see, or in my coaching practice with women, is that there is still a ways to go in terms of feeling that and actually seeing that represented in the numbers.
You've had great experience in tech. What was the motivation for writing the book? I want to get into the book because there's some cool things in there that we talk about all the time, but what was the motivation? What was the moment in time? What was the origination spark?
I think for women, communication always involves this double bind, right? Am I too nice? Am I too assertive? What feedback am I getting? And certainly I had experienced it in my career, and I'd seen it in the women that I coach as well. So I started to realize these patterns weren't unique, and I wanted to kind of bring them together and work out what was a way to move forward, or some tools that you could use to in your toolkit.
You know, it's interesting, as I get older, I have 2 daughters, and all my friends have, kids. And you look at this younger generation, and you mentioned the coaching. I want to get into kind of the generational connections, because one of the things that with AI I'm seeing right now in the tech market is that it's infusing in all aspects of society. So you're starting to see generational connections, not the Gen Zs are replacing the Xs and the boomers. Well, that's certainly happening as people age out of the workforce and kind of settle into the end of their lives. But with AI and some of the tech, it's interesting. It's old guard, new guard coming together. Here in finance, we cover a lot of the blockchain stuff. With cloud and AI, you're starting to see the fusing of the kind of the younger generation, and that's interesting. I'd love to get your perspective on that, because when I talk to young women, they're moving fast. They're almost like, hey, what's the issue? Like, so like this kind of like, no, well, it's not in tech has never been equal. What is that connection? Have you seen like the younger and old in your coaching? Is there a pattern there? Is there any kind of new data?
One of the things I think it's important to remember is that it hasn't been that long since women were actually in the workforce, right? So if we think about the first women who were actually working, it was not hundreds and hundreds of years we're talking about. And so I think the changes are happening, and I think that the democratization that you're speaking of is definitely changing, but I think the numbers are still playing out that it's not at a point where we'd be really happy. We know that, for example, only 2% of VC funding goes to women, right? So we've got a ways to go, certainly, but I'm confident it's moving in the right direction.
It's nice to see, too, women firms that are dedicated to financing women. I have to ask you on the book, what was the key thing that you really wanted to get across? Was it the communications? Was it the mindset? What was some of the keys?
So I think a lot of books, especially, or even popular culture, is very much looking at women as remedial, right? You're broken, here's how to fix it. And what I wanted to do in the book is actually, you're not broken at all. There's so many good things that you're already doing. How do we optimize to have you lean into more of that in your communication? And then what are some tools we can give to remedy or help the deficits you're feeling?
I like the title. And you mentioned things need to be broken, fix it. It's a feature, not a bug, as they say in tech, right? So a lot of times people are like, okay, that's a problem, let's fix it. You're saying this is, okay, you are what you are.
Yeah.
What is the key message for someone who's like, hey, how should I behave? You mentioned that do I go harder, be more assertive? I was talking with Gemma earlier about the Satya Nadella gaffe, like the Grace Hopper event years ago, when he said, women should fight harder. And then that blew up in his face. But he's actually been great at Microsoft.
Right.
To things. But what is I mean, it's different for different people, but what's the strategy for someone to do that? Like to be likable or less likable?
Yeah, part of it is so much of our where do we stand? Am I being confident? Am I being likable? Comes down to being performative, right? And oftentimes I think that's unsustainable because it's asking us to be something that we're not. And really the book is much more about like, actually who are you right now? And how do we turn the volume up on that, right? How do we make that the most powerful and get you the most cut through?
Tell a story from that motivated the book, or a scenario. You don't have to name names, but like some use cases or scenarios, and how that played out as an illustration.
Yeah, so I have, most of the people I coach are extremely high achieving, very, very credentialed, quite brilliant people. And so it's always interesting to me when they come and say the same sorts of things as younger people or older people, like, I worry about this, I'm not confident about this. One of the great ones was a woman called Gina, I'll call her Gina for this, and she used to open every conversation with her CEO it's just Gina. And even just like the minimization of herself at the outset, right? It's Gina, it's okay. She'd done a whole lot of very minimizing behaviors, and we took stock of them, did a bit of an audit, and realized there's actually a ton of things she can do to be turning up and maybe not give away power at the outset, sometimes even before she had started talking.
And what were some of the tools that she implemented with? What was there?
Yeah, we did a language audit, so things like it'll just take a sec, no worries if not, just, I'm not an expert, but we often caveat and diminish by accident, right? And the intention is quite good. The intention is like, I don't want to take up your time, but actually what it ends up minimizing herself and
words
and the
matter.
work.
I mean, words.
They really do, yeah. And we don't give enough time to them maybe to study their impact.
On the authentic leadership piece, that's come up a lot. One of the things we're seeing in a lot of the, as we're living this era of data, everything's available, everything's being recorded. Originality, authenticity, and trust tend to be the key kind of things that we're seeing on people that are successful, and products, and just in general, content or whatever. I mean, so being authentic, it can be cliche. It's like, hey, be authentic, be your authentic self. Like, okay, what does that mean? So take us through some of the things that matter. What does that mean? What does it mean to be authentic?
Yeah.
Being an original sometimes can backfire. Like, oh my God.
Right.
Like, so like, people always feel like they're walking on eggshells. I mean, I do as a guy too, where I'm like, okay, what's the right words to say? How do you be original and authentic?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think the word that I want to pick up on that you used is trust, right? If everyone's in service of trying to build trust at work, right? We want people to rely on us and know that we'll be able to deliver. And communication is how you get to trust. So being clear, being transparent, making the work visible, all of these things are in service of we're going to get closer and actually understand each other better, which is really what we're all trying to do.
Yeah, another thing that comes up too is, another thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about, it's very transactional versus relationship. I mentioned trust. How does that play out in your coaching and your research and in the book? Because, you know, transactions happen, but if you earn trust first, it's okay to do transactional things. But if you're just transactional, how do you see that? How do people communicate, hey, I'm being transactional, but I really kind of want to have a relationship, or is that too forward thinking? I mean, you know, it gets weird.
Yeah.
What's your,
it does get weird.
At least for me it does, because it's like, okay, I'd like to get to know someone first and then do a transition, but also want to go faster.
Yes. One of the things I think about is like, can you do a communication side quest with someone? So I could say to you something like, John, I'm really interested in what we're working on today. I'm going to be super abrupt and kind of transactional in my feedback because I want us to get to a great place quickly. So forgive me if that comes off as a bit intense or whatever the word might be, right? I give myself permission to actually do what I wanted to do, and you then understand my intentions are good.
Yeah, I love how you take a communications approach on the book, because it's not like a self-help book in one head, but it is.
Right.
So take me through some strategies people can employ for being more communicative. I love that one you said, just being contextual. Hey, I'm super busy today, like I got a lot on my mind, I'm gonna be direct. Or hey, I got some time to talk, so that you're saying the pretext to that is a good way. That's one strategy. Any other strategies people can take?
Another one I talk about is to kill your confidence, which is maybe not what you would expect in a communications book, but really when we start thinking, I've got to be confident, we become very self-conscious, and it's almost like we're standing outside of ourselves looking in. And what I'm trying to do is say, stop thinking about I need to be confident or have executive presence, which can be very paralyzing, and actually think about how can I connect better? How can I be of service in this interaction such that I'm shifting from the thinking about it to the doing of it, which actually will make you look confident because you're in your zone of excellence.
You're saying let your guard down, basically, or
kind of maybe just get out of your own head.
It's overthinking it.
Right.
Let me ask another weird question for you, because a lot of guys want to learn too how to be better communicators. And women are obviously doing the same thing. This book is targeted at women. But men want to know what strategies they could take.
Yeah.
Any signs or any kind of things they could look for, or what they could do
For sure.
to be better recipients and communicate back.
Yeah.
It's a handshake, right? It's a, communication is a two-way.
Absolutely. And I coach a lot of men too, so the book is sort of more for women, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things is just to be a great listener never hurts anybody, right? To really be in the conversation and be present, not thinking about what you're going to say next, but actually being present and listening. Sometimes a great work of allyship is just to be able to call out, hey, you weren't finished, or I'd love to go back to what you were saying on Monday, like actually shining a light on someone who you thought had a good idea. These are kind of smaller things that we can do that are really very well received.
Kate, I have to ask you about your coaching, and you mentioned some of the people are very successful. There's entrepreneurs who we all know it's not a good life for some because it's hard grind, and then there's executives. Is there a pattern around the type of successes and styles, whether they're trying to balance the family, work, men and women have the same challenge, where you're not balanced?
Yes.
Is there a pattern in that kind of career path,
Yes.
stress, or things that people can do better, or we've identified,
Yeah.
or it's the same?
I mean, I think they're always going to be very busy and struggling with that balance. I unfortunately don't have the answer to that part of things. But what I really admire in them is that they're very self-aware and they're very curious to learn. So these are people who are, I've become an SVP. I've now got to speak to this town hall of 100, 200, 300 people. How do I level up to do that? So that's my favorite person to work with, is the person who's curious and excited to jump up.
You also have a part about men as allies. Talk about that piece.
So I think part of, we all exist, it's not just women at work, right? So we're all in meetings together. So one of the things that's really important is that we're allies to each other, that we call out achievements, we give credit where credit's due, we don't take over ideas or speak over each other. These are really key things that help you show up as the best you can as well.
One of my youngest daughters, she actually went to college during the COVID days. So when she graduated, she didn't really have the etiquette knowledge of outside of Zoom meetings.
Right.
And obviously now there's kind of a back to work thing, which I like. I think that's cool. Face to face is always great. But still, a majority of the work is virtual, mixed hybrid, and both young and old. Zoom and virtual face to face is not the same as physical face to face.
Yes.
Does that change? Has that changed some of the folks that are sort of pre-COVID, and then maybe the younger generation who are coming into the workforce? Has that changed some of the dynamics and changed the communication styles?
It for sure has. I think on the one hand, it's been great because Zoom is very democratizing. You all have the equal size box and you can be heard, and you can even do the little emojis to raise your hand. Like, that can be better sometimes than a very long table that you can't kind of get cut through in. Obviously, the flip side is that you're not seeing people in person. You don't have that rapport developed. So for sure, it can be more challenging.
I do love the hand raising feature.
Right?
By the way. Can you imagine in the conference room just someone raising their hand?
But it works super effectively in a big meeting on Zoom, right?
It is. I'll just wait for someone to talk. What is the biggest feedback you've gotten from the book so far? What has been some of the...
The most joyous one for me is that when I see people's shoulders come down with relief, like finally, this is something I've been thinking about for a long time, or this is something I've grappled with and I've not really known the way out of it.
So what is the status now? The book was published. Take us through some of the timelines, some of the data.
Yeah, so the book was only published last week, so it's only been out in the world for a week, but we're getting really, really good feedback from folks, and I'm getting tons of messages about how can I do more of this, and when's your second book coming out, which was not what I expected week one in to launch.
Got the second book?
I'll be back to tell you about it.
Get your agent on that immediately. Being likable is, I remember I read a book when I was in school, How to Make Friends and Influence People. That was a famous book. Getting to Yes. With two books that I read. And likability was really much key. And if you're in sales, the expression is people buy for people that they like, not so much the product. Likability is huge.
Yeah.
But it's not really, is there a playbook for that? Or is it more of each person has to find their own way? How would you look at that?
So I think I look at it specifically through a female lens, right? Because our books are like Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office or Lean In. And both of these, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, don't really speak exactly, I think, to women today. And so I wanted to pull together something that said likability is not a bad thing. I think sometimes it feels like a backhanded compliment, like they're so likable. Likability definitionally means you like being in that person's orbit. And as you say, you buy from them, you promote them, you advocate for them.
It's funny, I've seen situations, and I've probably been in them myself, where you think you're giving someone a compliment and it's not.
Right.
What are some of those things? Has there been a cultural shift? Obviously, women in the workforce, like I said, democratization is going to change everything. I think AI is going to make tech become invisible. I think that's going to open up a lot of diverse software development. I mean, vibe coding alone is amazing.
I hope so.
So you're going to start to see that change. Is there a new generation of communication styles and things to say and not say?
I would love to see it. I think there's a place to say, one of the things I think about in the book is, can you bring together really diverse or dissonant ideas, right?
Yeah.
Powerful and likable don't feel like they should sit together, but I think they're a really amazing combination. So how do we get to more innovative, generative versions of communicative leadership?
Final question for you is, if you could change the magic wand and kind of like make things be different in tech, what would be the big things you'd want to see happen?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that diversity, actual diversity, would be amazing. We all know that not only do diverse teams do better work together, but diverse companies are more profitable. So even if you're, have question marks over whether that's a good idea, you can't ignore the bottom line. All of the research points that way. So true racial and gender equity would be really exciting to see.
The book, Powerfully Likable, love the word powers in there. Power and likability, not always go hand in hand.
No, that's right.
Well, congratulations. Thanks for coming on theCUBE. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm John Furrier here at theCUBE, the NYSE, New York Stock Exchange. This is the financial side of theCUBE. We are on the East Coast, of course, Palo Alto and Silicon Valley, connecting Silicon Valley and Wall Street. Thanks for watching.